What were the most expensive American cars during the 1980s? Today we might think of the all-new Lincoln Navigator or even the Cadillac Escalade V-Series. It's time to take a look into the past. A lot of you guys find some of my videos nostalgic or reminiscent, which makes me very happy. I enjoy that part of making these videos. I wasn't around during this time, and being able to learn about these cars has definitely continued my passion for doing this. Most people my age are not interested in the things I like, so I really do appreciate the comments from you guys. In terms of this week's video, I will be going from least expensive to most expensive. Because this is a list video, I can only briefly talk about each car, which sucks because some of these cars have so much more to offer. Also, I would like to clarify that some prices might be a little off. As we know, there are tons of add-on features that can definitely jack up the price. I did extensive research to find out the most accurate prices for each car. With that said, I hope you enjoy today's video. 1980 Lincoln Versailles.
Few cars are designed with such uniqueness as the '79 Versailles. Designed and engineered with beautiful new styling.
This was like getting a 2020 base Lincoln Continental or a 2016 MKS. That is the best way to compare it to the present time. This car just makes the cutoff as it was produced from 1977 until 1980. Until its last year, it was $2,000 less than the Seville at the time, its direct competition. We will see later that Cadillac completely redesigned the Seville in 1980 and demanded a hefty premium. The Versailles was Ford's response to the increasing demand for fuel-efficient cars, which is fine. However, these cars get a bad rap. After reading many different forums, I now understand why. The Versailles is an upscale Granada that borrowed a Continental grille, fake spare tire hump, and some leather thrown around inside, kind of like an earlier Cadillac Cimarron, which is truly unfortunate for the consumers because they are being ripped off. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh, I don't know. So what did you get when you bought a Versailles? Well, there were 36 possible color options, and it had all the bells and whistles for the time. There were no trim levels offered, but consumers could option in more features if they like. For example, the illuminated outside thermometer. No idea how much that cost, but it was available. By 1980, the recession was in full swing, but also there was a new Continental. And so, the Versailles cut production that very year, with less than 5,000 sold for 1980. Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Yes, the car from Breaking Bad. Man, who doesn't love this car? I mean, everyone knows one of these when they see them, apart from my girlfriend, who doesn't know a thing about cars. More specifically, I will be referring to when Chrysler bought out AMC in 1987. Chrysler had their priorities set on different cars at the time, hence there was never a redesign earlier. I did not know this, but the SJ platform was in production since 1963. 29 model years, guys. Almost double the number of years than the Crown Victoria. That's not to say Chrysler didn't do anything. 1989 models and up, which are considered the best and most valuable, they got upgraded wood siding, slicker alloy wheels, an electrocoat primer for better rust proofing, and an electric sunroof. Also, the interior now featured an overhead console taken from Chrysler's popular minivans. After all of these years with subtle exterior features over time, the Grand Wagoneer managed to still sell quite well and was very profitable for Chrysler. And to this day, these Jeeps are fetching a pretty penny. Chrysler Imperial Frank Sinatra Edition. The Imperial was Chrysler's most expensive car at the time. It was newer, more exclusive, and more advanced than the competition.
It's time for Imperial, a new luxury car with everything standard from an interior by Mark Cross to electronic fuel injection.
I made a video about the worst 80s cars from Chrysler a couple of weeks ago, and the Imperial was featured. Not because of its looks, I think it's a very elegant looking car, but rather its absolute god-awful electronic fuel injection system. Although I'm not here to go over all of its problems, rather look at the Frank Sinatra Edition, or FS. Sinatra and Iacocca were great friends at the time. He actually played at Iacocca's retirement party. He agreed to promote the car for a fee of $1 a year. This package was around $1,000, making the Imperial FS one expensive car for the time. So what did you get? Well, the hood ornament was Cartier crystal, which is crazy to think about. I mean, wouldn't people want to just steal it? Like what? The exterior and interior were in this elegant blue color, referring to Old Blue Eyes. It came with 16 of Sinatra's cassettes, which he handpicked himself. The interior was either velvet or leather in this glacier blue crystal, as Chrysler called it. The center console was unique to this trim, and there was exclusive badging. Is $3,500 worth it? 427 people thought so. That is it. And believe it or not, the FS trim was cut a year short before the Imperial ended production in '83. I guess Chrysler didn't think it was worth it either. Lincoln Continental Mark VI Bill Blass Edition. The Mark VI was the full-size luxury flagship from Ford at the time. It was even slotted above the Town Car. During the early 80s, Lincoln offered this designer series for the Continental. This would include Cartier, Bill Blass, Pucci, and Giovanni. I hope I'm pronouncing everything correctly. If not, I'm sure a few of you will let me know. Each designer featured its own exclusive exterior and interior touches, along with additional equipment over base Mark VI's. Among the four, the Bill Blass was the most expensive by a few $100s, and also this package was only offered in the coupes. This trim is most notable for having a dark blue metallic paint with white upper accents. The interior was in a midnight blue with white accents in leather or cloth. It came with lacy spoke cast aluminum wheels, personalized instrument panel nameplate, twin comfort lounge seats, just every option available. And of course, the Bill Blass anchor was present on side panels to let everyone know that you paid this much money for this edition. Not sure how you guys feel about this, but the Bill Blass edition was the only designer series model to not offer the oval rear window. Again, different years came out with different color options. It was not limited to just the blue and white. These are very rare cars to come across, as they were hardly ever bought due to the insane price tag. But at the end of the day, I still think they're pretty cool. 1987 Buick Grand National GNX. Probably one of the coolest cars on this list. I mean, this was the hottest American-built performance car you could buy at the time, faster 0 to 60 times than Ferraris and Lambos, which was 4.7 seconds. Under the hood was a 3.8 turbocharged V6 making 245 horsepower and 355 pound-feet of torque, or so that's what GM rated it for. Independent testing revealed that this turbo V6, made in the 80s mind you, made closer to 300 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. I don't know a single person who doesn't love this car. Just 547 GNXs were ever built, and there was this practically brand new GNX that popped up a year or two ago with just 9 miles on the clock. It was that cliche barn find, just it was a GNX. Anyway, the owner passed away, some other guy got his hands on it, I'm not really sure how, but the dude wants, and this is crazy, he wants $350,000 for it. How do you feel about this? Is he asking too much, or is it a fair price? Cadillac Seville Elegante, aka the Bustleback Seville. Following up on the GNX, we have this oddball when it comes to styling. The Seville debuted in '75 as a regular 4-door sedan. It was the smallest in the lineup at the time as a direct response to the oil crisis and downsizing. Well, 5 years later, GM redesigned it, and man, is it spicy. I'm referring to the trunk, or the back. The front looks completely fine.
A car for those who choose to go first class all the way. Seville. Best of all, it's a Cadillac.
The Seville now shared its platform with the Eldorado and was now front-wheel drive. Introducing Seville for the 80s, first American car with diesel as standard. We all know how that turned out. 0 to 60 for this car with the diesel was 19.7 seconds. That is actually insane. On top of that, Cadillac offered the V8 6.4 engine, so both of these were absolutely awful motors. I can now understand why a lot of you guys do not like GM. I'm not saying I hate them, but I see some of these problems, you know? Anyway, sorry, back to the Seville, and more importantly, the Elegante package. This was the top-notch trim with a price of $3,000. It featured chrome-plated wire wheels, accent striping, Elegante script on the outside, and a host of other features optional or unavailable on the base Seville came standard. And you would never think this, but the demand for this body style amongst collectors has more than doubled in the last 5 years. Cadillac Eldorado Baritz Convertible. The longest running American personal luxury car. These 10th gen Eldorados were right smack in the middle in terms of size compared to the 9th and 11th gens. While downsized, these Eldorados were still decently sized cars with good room and decent power, apart from those diesels. The 9th gen, which ran from 71 until 78, really defined personal luxury car. The 11th gens, on the other hand, not so much. That's just my opinion though. Only for 1984 and 85 did Cadillac offer the Baritz Convertible Edition. This was the highest priced GM production car at the time, even more than the Corvette. The entry price for a base Eldorado was around $20,000. Combining the Baritz package with the convertible top added an extra $12,000 back in 1984. American Sunroof Company, or ASC, helped with this conversion. GM has worked with them many times before, so it only seemed right to pair up again. Of course, it was very luxurious, every option imaginable, including digital instrumentation, a somewhat new innovation for the time. Corvette C4, more specifically the ones with the convertible top. The C4 ran from 84 to 96, and the convertible top was first available for 1986 after a 10-year hiatus. This was a $2,000 option. Personally, I'm not a fan. Compared to the coupes, the convertibles sold nearly 4 times as less, just to put that in perspective. Also, there was the 35th anniversary Corvette, which was an extra $4,800 over base models in 1988, which translates to almost around the same amount for the convertible. Some of you may be thinking, what about the ZR1? Well, as it turns out, those weren't introduced until 1990. Nevertheless, those were super expensive, but also very impressive for the time. Very, very impressive. To clarify, you could option in a whole bunch more, such as leather seats, a radio delete, which was only optioned in for 166 units for 1986. Also a heavy-duty radiator, you get my point. At the end of the day, it's a Corvette. I've never really been a fanboy for these cars. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate them, but some generations are not my favorite. In the C4, it's alright, but it's pretty controversial among the community. I think personally one of my favorites gotta be the C7. I think they look pretty good, but I couldn't tell you which one is my favorite. DMC DeLorean, the infamous car from Back to the Future. Man, these were so expensive, and for what you paid, you got like no performance or power. They were only good for 130 horsepower on a good day. Lots of owners and fans say the actual horsepower is a lot less. Under the hood were those PRV engines from a whole bunch of different companies. There can be a whole video dedicated to these motors. They were definitely interesting. They had a 90-degree layout for a V6 engine, which isn't all that common. Usually it's 60 degrees. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a DeLorean. It's got the gold wing doors, brushed stainless steel outer panels, just a cool looking car. Production information was lost upon the shutdown of DMC. Some sources say around 9,000 units were ever built. Consigliere GTP LX. I definitely pronounced that incorrectly. I never heard of these. Someone in my comments mentioned it, so shout out to you. And maybe why that is because they were a complete failure. There was only around 100 ever produced. They stacked nowhere near to the Ferrari Testarossa and Lamborghini Countach. They were also very different from those cars. Instead of being big with lots of power, thus being heavy, they were super lightweight, around 2,200 pounds. Those other cars were in the 3,000s. However, they had that Chrysler 2.2 Turbo 2 engine, which was found in the Shelby GLHS and Shelby Charger GLHS. 0 to 60 was in between 5 to 5.4 seconds. The LX package was the most luxurious trim. It had Recaro seats, unique wheels, Alpine sound system, AC, and a bunch of other features common for Cadillacs or Lincolns from the time. When it comes to looks, jeez man, it's very strange looking. I'm actually gonna go on a limb here and say it's ugly. Yeah, I think it's very ugly. However, I mean, during the time though, these things were like racing champions, so they were pretty advanced for the time, but it's ugly. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it to this point, then props to you. You really like watching my videos, which that means a lot. Anyway, I got some good news. In the next couple of months, there's going to be some drastic improvements. For one, the audio is gonna hopefully be a little bit more crisp and clear, and also I might be learning a new software program to help with my editing and make things look better for you guys to enjoy. At the end of the day, you guys are my audience and I'm the creator, so you guys come first. That's gonna wrap it up. I will see you guys next week.